Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Tonight, we're going to be looking at Someday Funnies. Guys, I don't even know how to describe this. This episode is going to knock the socks off your ass. It's hard to believe that this even exists. For decades, this collection of comics by 169 contributors. It attained mythic status. It was like the great lost comic that was the lineup of artists was so astounding that it seemed like it must have been some kind of urban legend or just made up. And I never heard of this, and I've been reading fanzines my whole life, been reading about comics. Not that I'm an expert or anything, but it's something like this you'd think you would have heard of. So in 2009, the Comics Journal published an article by Bob Levin, a frequent contributor to the journal, and it was like 50 pages long, just talking about the amazing Odyssey-like making of this collection. It's in early 70s. Jan Wenner, the publisher of Rolling Stone, wanted this editor, Michael Choquet, I'm going to pronounce it that way, I don't know, it's French. He commissioned him to do a funnies insert in the Rolling Stone. It would be like 24 pages. Yeah, the idea was to get like all kinds of crazy people to contribute, not just famous cartoonists, but even like writers or directors. After like a few months, it kept expanding. And Jan Wenner said, let's make a book of this stuff. And I guess Rolling Stone was doing pretty good then, so he just kept giving Michael Choquet money. So he just traveled the world, going to almost every continent. France, talking to the greatest band aid dessinée artists. He even went to Japan, even though there's no manga in here. I guess that was fruitless. Some of the great underground cartoonists. But, well, you're going to see. I don't want to give it away. But you guys this is hard to believe this is real. It's, so, of course, after a few years of this, Jan Wenner of Rolling Stone pulled out. He said, I don't think this is going to work. He almost had another publishing deal like a year later, I think with HarperCollins. They seemed very enthusiastic. Then they pulled out. And so Michael Choquet gave up. He spent the intervening decades doing various things. Michael Choquet's his life story, which we're going to read about at the afterward. He's done like everything. He seems like a very talented guy, but he's always loved comics. So finally, after that Comics Journal interview came out, and I think John B. Cook mentioned it too in a comic book, probably at the time Comic Book Artist. There was an interest in this. Apparently, all the art still existed. He had it in a storage shed somewhere. So Abrams Comics Art heard about it, gave him a ring, and finally, after almost, 40 years? After almost 40 years, when it was supposed to come out, the Someday Funnies finally came out. It's quite a story. The story is almost as interesting as the collection, as this book, but this book is more interesting. This book is insane. The artists that they got, the breadth of artists that they got. It's huge. This is the most I've ever had to zoom out. In fact, I had to prop up a stack of comic books under my camera mount because I couldn't zoom back far enough. So hopefully you'll be able to see everything. It's going to be pretty tiny. I had to really zoom out far. But look at my hands here. This is huge, this book. It's gigantic. And it's fat, too. It's pretty damn fat. And here's the back cover. So now I'm going to have to get it realigned. Hold on a second. Because I got to keep this in picture for you guys. Right, let me stand up a second and check. Looks about right. I think. I hope. Dum. Whatever. That's as close as I'm going to get. So, let's crack this open. Make sure this is centered. So I'm going to take off the dust jacket here. But first I'm going to show it to you. The typical kind of end flaps here. This one I don't think is in the book, unless my memory is just that bad. This is Peter Bramley. He's part of the Cloud Comics Collective. We looked at a couple of their comics on the channel here. And here's the other side of the flap. So this shows Michael Choquet as a young man when he was collecting these strips. And this is him now. Looks pretty damn healthy. Also, here's something by R.O. Bleckman, the great cartoonist. So let me get rid of this dust jacket without, hopefully, getting out of center here. Oh, I'm going to have to. Hold on. Give me a second. Strap in, guys. This is going to be a very long episode because I really want to delve into this. So I hope I have your patience. Gotta check one more time. Make sure this is okay. Dum 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 dum. Mm-hmm. Okay. God, I'm so excited about this. I read this, a couple of years ago, or a few years ago when I bought it. I don't even know when I bought this. But seeing it again, it freaked me out. I was just like, I forgot how amazing this is and astounding. So this was the original mock-up cover. They made mock-ups of the book back in '73 when they were shopping it around. I'll actually get the artist of this in a second. I forgot who this artist is. But the logo is pretty the same as it is on the dust jacket. And it's Remember the 60s. So that's the main impetus for this book. Jan Wenner wanted to get all comics about the 60s. The 60s were over. Rolling Stone was very much, a child of the 60s, and they wanted a retrospective. So all of these strips are about some aspect of the 1960s. Okay, let me see if I got this right. Should be okay. I like these end papers. These are, I guess Michael Choquet saved all of his correspondence. So we see like letters from Bill Griffith. Some guys even did nice little drawings here. I mean, this is pretty, just a well-done collage. There's Art Spiegelman, his little mice. We got the first title page, or the only title page. We have a thanks to page. I should say a dedication. And here's thanks to basically the guys who did the forwards and the afterwards and the introductions. So here's a couple of pages showing a little bit about what the mock-up looked like. Oh, I'm sorry. So this is the paintings by Richard Hess. Logo by Philip Castle. I really like that logo. It's very underground comics, very fun, old-timey logo. Yeah, I could see this. This is so of its time. That is such a 1973 cover. Totally understand why they didn't use it in 2011 for the dust jacket. It just, it wouldn't have played now. It's really funny, though. I just love this, like, square family just watching Lee Harvey Oswald get shot on TV. And the father's saying, someday we'll look back at all this and laugh. This is the original back cover, well, for the mock-up. Here's the real title page. So all these little illustrations, we'll talk about this more later, are by a graphic designer named Michael Fogg. I don't think he's ever done comics before. We got this huge copyright page because there's so many contributors to this. And here's the contents. First, we have an introduction by Robert Greenfield, Remembering the 60s. This is just the typical shit you've read a million times. Oh, this happened in the 60s, and then don't forget the hippies and the Cuban Missile Crisis, all that shit. This is really great. Jeet Heer, the great comics journalist, he just does this great overview, talking about a lot of contributors. I love the layout of this, just showing so much cool art from various things. even though Hicksville, Dylan Harks has nothing to do with this book, he almost, if you've read Hicksville, it takes place in this like in some mythical town where comics are actually revered. Everyone reads comics, and there's a library of lost comics, and it'll have like comic book masterpieces by Harvey Kurtzman that he never made. He wanted to make. Like Harvey Kurtzman's 1984 by George Orwell. That'll be in the library. It's almost like what's his face? Borges does that a lot. Like I guess Sandman does too. Sandman has that library of books that people have only dreamt of. Really fun layout here, just showing so much great art. Kind of reminds me of the graphic design work of John B. Cook, where he just throws in so many nice, fun things to look at. We're going to come back to this later. This is some of these are really actually interesting that they put these in here. Just talking about so much. I mean, G.T.R. crams so much about comics history into this. Talking about the Clear Line, development of Clear Line all the way back to George McManus, which I never really realized. Yeah, that's Clear Line art. All the way up to today. Stuff about Will Eisner, the development of the graphic novel. So now we have a preface by Michael Choquet. Now he actually concedes to the Comics Journal article. He says, yeah, this is a big story, but to be honest, Bob Levin covered it pretty damn well in that Comics Journal article. I believe it's number 299, if I'm not mistaken. It's from 2009. It's one of their square-bound issues. I really recommend it highly. It's an amazing article, but actually having the book, like I read that article way before I got this book, and I just thought, wow, that's a damn shame this will never come out. And the fact that Abrams put this out a couple years after that, it was so great. Here's one of the strips that was made for the original, and it's written by Michael Choquet and Sean Kelly, one of his compatriots from National Lampoon. And it's drawn by this guy named David Craig. And I don't know why it's not in here. I think maybe because he didn't want to put himself in the book. We see all these things like crazy notes between him and Ann Beats, the famous Saturday Night Live writer. They were dating at the time. She was his assistant. She helped him a lot. And they also talk about this insane idea where they were like, we should run all the strips backwards to simulate nostalgia, that we're going back in time. Luckily, they did not do that. He even admits it's the stupidest idea he's ever had. So we have this timeline here showing all of his travels. Like, man, he traveled all over the world constantly. He was on a plane going somewhere. I guess Rolling Stone's pockets were deep. But what's even more interesting is his little black book. And Michael Choquet documented everything. Every person that he contacted, had meetings with. And the names are astounding here. I mean, of course, the names he didn't even have a meeting with. Ray Bradbury, Walter Cronkite. But I mean, that was just a wish list stuff. But these are the guys he talked to, and I guess they turned him down. Alejandro Jodorowsky, George Plimpton, Neil Simon, John Romita, Charles Adams, S. Clay Wilson. He had meetings with all these people. They were close to being in the book. Kurt Vonnegut Jr., Abby Hoffman, Edward Gorey, Hergé, Robert Crumb. Robert Crumb was supposed to draw all these interstitial drawings. That was the dream of Michael, of Mr. Choquet, but R. Crumb totally turned him down. He didn't like the idea of doing that. Oh man, Terry Gilliam, Gerald Scarfe. So they were close to doing it. They actually met with them. Claire Bretécher, the great French cartoonist. Ron Cobb, great cartoonist and movie art director type guy. So this is a pretty interesting story. Oh, here's William S. Burroughs even. And we have a note from him. Oh, I'm sorry, William S. Burroughs is in the book. So he did contribute. It wasn't a failed meeting. Nora Ephron. Just such a random list. Tommy Smothers, Salvador Dali, Richard Corbin. That's a damn shame he wasn't in it. Mike Kaluta, Al Williamson, Dudley Moore, Charlie Watts, the drummer of the Rolling Stones. Just nuts. And here we just see all the crazy people he met along the way. He said he almost got Dali to be in it, but he wanted too much money. Here's the Comics Journal cover. Let me see. It is $2.99. I was right. So this is the one that kind of got the whole ball rolling. Okay, so now we see the strips. There's more Michael Fogg. So there's a huge flaw in this book, even though it's so the lineup is so crazy and stupendous that I can overlook it. I shouldn't. It's a really huge flaw, which we're gonna see in a second. But I shouldn't have brought it up until we get there. But here's more Michael Fogg. They talk about two narratives now unfold: the kaleidoscopic history of the '60s and a tongue-in-cheek account of Michael Choquet procuring comics for this and also meeting people all throughout the world. Luckily, this first one has none of that. It's Bill Griffith, very early Zippy the Pinhead. This is called Twist, Shout, Gross Yourself Out. And this is just, he's touching on various events in the 60s. Some of them very consequential, some of them very silly. John Lennon cuts his hair. Rob McEwen makes poetry popular. And Zippy, back in the old days, wasn't as non-secretary as he is now. The things he says actually seem to correspond with, well, sometimes they do. Sometimes they obviously don't. You could see Bill Griffith pretty crude. He really, so different than how he'd be just a few years later. Even like 2 years later. Guys, so here's one of the first crazy names. Tom Wolfe, the famous journalist, famous writer. You know, he was just the biggest name in the 70s, late 60s and 70s in writing. I guess he was a cartoonist when he was younger. This is called The Man Who Always Peaked Too Soon. God, even the logo is pretty damn good. Tom Wolfe is really good. I love this drawing. Before we go on, guys, we're going to address this thing. This is what I'm talking about. Michael Choquet actually told every cartoonist to leave us, almost every comic, not all of them, to leave a spot so we could have this ongoing narrative. At the time, he did not know it would be him procuring the strips. That wasn't the plan. Ideally, he wanted R. Crumb to have Mr. Natural commenting on all the things that were going on in the strips. Even that's a really dumb idea. Just ruining the integrity of each artist's strip. But this is even worse, because these are just cutesy little drawings. Michael Fogg has a nice, breezy style. But this is what I'm talking about, guys. Especially, this is a black and white strip. And then this just very garish intrusion into the comic. So I'm going to try to hold my temper, because it is the fact that he got these amazing artists to do some of their best work, and then he does this shit and basically sticks a fucking needle in the eye of... I'm trying to make some metaphor. Sorry, guys. I'm too tired to think of a good metaphor. A splinter in the eye, maybe? Is that what I was trying to think of? I really love the theme of this comic. It's about a guy who is very hip to the jive, just 4 or 5 years too early. So like in 1961, he was already acting like a hippie. Everyone just thought he was a nut. It wasn't cool then. In 1964, he was already like a revolutionary. And by 1970, he's just basically a yuppie. He's given it all up, and he's a millionaire. Moral, don't do what you see me doing. Wait 2 or 3 years. Man, Tom Wolfe is a good cartoonist. It's sad that he didn't continue. Next, we have The Inside Truth About the French A-Bomb. And this is by Philippe Cousin. Well, it looks like cousin. I'm sure it's pronounced in some way that I don't know how to do. So this is another kind of dumb thing in the book. None of the strips are translated, the ones that are not in English. But there is a translation later on in the book. It's not a good way to read a comic. Once again, look at this black and white strip, very serious, and we got this. In a mushroom cloud, no less. This one is just about the French A-bomb tests, which were going on all throughout the 60s. This guy's really good, Philippe Cousin. There's so many artists in this that I never heard of before. Excuse me, guys. I need some water again. I'm going to see if... So he was an author and illustrator. He wasn't really a cartoonist. So I guess now, later on, he just became a writer and a painter. Next we have Mods and Rockers. And this is Malcolm Livingstone, just illustrating the lyrics from My Generation by Pete Townsend. Oh, guys, it's hard. I'm going to stop. But do you see what I'm talking about? What a huge mistake this was. Like, it's a criminal. Like, it's so dumb. Okay, I'm going to stop about that. I'm just going to pretend they're not there. This guy's pretty good. Never seen his stuff. English cartoonist. He was an underground cartoonist in the UK. He was in Cosmic Comics, the big underground. That was England's big underground. And I guess he became a children's book illustrator. Look at this, guys. A new spirit story by Will Eisner. And this is when, before Contract with God, Will Eisner hadn't drawn any comics, probably since those Harvey Spirit stories in 67 or 66, sometime around then. But of course, this isn't really a spirit story. It's about the 60s. But it is a nice little story, a little crime story, featuring the spirit in ebony. This is looking good, especially considering Will Eisner must have been rusty at this point. I love how much story he crams into this. Look at this, all these little panels. And, master storyteller Will Eisner. He really tells an intricate story, a little crime story in here. Now, guys, this is amazing. This is the most remarkable thing in this. Will Eisner drawing a nipple. Well, here you can barely see it, but here it's popping out. And you never thought you'd see that. Oh, here's a full-on booby shot. Amazing. And they've got to do this. Sorry, I said I wouldn't. I gotta be honest, I kind of like the colors on these Michael Fogg vignettes. I think it's kind of a cute cartoony style, but such a dumb idea. Next we have this story, Orion, La Laveur des Planètes. Planets. And this is a text by Claude Moliterni, art by Robert Gigi. Gigi or Gigi? Really like this Robert Gigi guy. This is kind of a science fiction metaphor about the erection of the Berlin Wall. Or just about the Berlin Wall, sorry. And nice stuff. Never heard of this guy before. Would love to see more by him. French cartoonist. Let me double check. Guys, I think I want to go back and forth here and just give you an idea of, because where these guys come from. Like Claude Moliterni was a French writer, editor, and critic, mostly dealing with comics. but he wasn't necessarily a comic writer. And Robert Gigi, or Gigi, it's probably Gigi, was just a long-time French comic artist. Next we have The Commie Plot to Take Over the U.S. Text by Timothy Krause, art by Alan Cooperberg. Alan Cooperberg, kind of pretty crappy artist who worked at Marvel for years, and probably best known for Obnoxio the Clown in Crazy Magazine. And this is just a very broad satire about how all of these like kind of hippie, folky people, they're really taking orders from Fidel Castro. We see the Yellow Submarine there. And basically saying all rock music, and especially black music, is trying to undermine American youth. But then we see him with Eisenhower. Let me see what this Timothy Krause guy is all about. Timothy Krause? He's an American journalist, playwright, translator, and short story writer with roots in campaign reporting. So this guy probably never would have thought to do a comic ever. So that's just another one of the kind of weird contributors he got. Next we have Your Ad Here. Text by Brian McConaughey. Art by Michael C. Gross. Now both of these guys were long-time National Lampoon stalwarts. I think both of them edited at National Lampoon, but I know for sure they contributed a hell of a lot. There's beautiful stuff in here. Really nice. And this is just about advertising, which, in the 60s it really came into its own little satire. Look at the colors in here. So many nice colors. Apparently Rich Tommaso had something to do with some of the color steps in here, and Bernie Moreau did some of the color separations. And there's some stunning colors in this book. There's a legion of colors who did this. The original colors who are like top tier, Tajana Wood and people like that. The letters were like Gaspar Saladino, Ben Oda. So the guys who didn't want to letter their own strips, they got the best letterers in the business and best colorists. Next we have The Gast Arbeiter, and this is text and art by F.K. Wachter. Really nice art. Another guy I've never even heard of. And this one I got to go to the translation, because to be honest, I really forgot what this strip was about. Oh, this is about foreign workers in Germany, usually from the south of Europe, and how badly they're treated. God, amazing stuff. And then F.A. Wachter, I'll find out a little about him. Oh, a celebrated German cartoonist, author, theater, and film director. By the way, Michael C. Gross, after leaving National Lampoon, he has producing credits on Heavy Metal, Ghostbusters, and Kindergarten Cop. I didn't know that. That's odd. Next we have Españoles en Europa. Text by Paco Candal. Art by Carlos Jimenez. We saw him in that Hom comic strip in Echoes from Future Past. This is some obviously being way more cartoony. Amazing cartoony style by Carlos Jimenez. This is some great stuff. Look at this. Classic. And Paco Candal is, let me see what his dealio is. A Spanish writer. And he was basically a serious guy who wrote novels, essays, and nonfiction books. Next we have Memories of Maryland by Trina Robbins, the Queen of the Undergrounds. And it's a pretty dumb strip. And you've heard me rag on Trina Robbins before. I usually don't like her work. This is pretty cruddy looking. Just a weird strip about a girl who just can't get over the fact that Marilyn Monroe died and how sad it is. And on her wedding night, she can't even consummate their nuptials because she's crying so much about thinking about Marilyn Monroe's death. Next we have The Perfect Wave by Coleman Cohen. This guy looks like just a graphic designer. Just a commentary on the surfing. Surfing was a big thing in the 60s. Just a little pantomime gag, basically. Not so great. But let's see what's up with this guy. He was a French cartoonist. But he did animation and stuff. But I don't think he ever did comics before this. Next we have Missile Crisis by Michael J. Weller. I kind of like this crazy art. God, the colors are just so primary and just exploding off the page. I should have put post-it notes over all of these. And what's up with this guy? He was a British artist and writer. So he did do underground comics in England. But he went on to become a fancy pants writer. This is another kind of interesting one. Just because I never heard of this person, Barbara Schubeck. And I just love, just the logo alone on this is like, this is some great stuff. She must hopefully became a graphic designer. And this is just about the songs of the 60s. And this is interesting because these characters, as we see them progress through the years, they look like the Berenstain Bears to me. Or Berenstain Bears. And Barbara Schubeck, an American artist who worked for National Lampoon. And then she just became a research librarian. Next we have Guido Crepax, doing a comic that doesn't give you a boner. This one is about the Italian fascists in the 60s. This is some great stuff. I'm not a huge fan of Crepax. I just know him from Valentina and Heavy Metal, a few stories. Look at this great panel here, though. This is amazing stuff. And this one, I got to look up the translation because I do want to get a sense of what this one was about. Oh yeah, it's when the fascists tried to get power in Italy in 1960. And just how basically, even though the fascists are the obvious bad guys here, the police keep jailing anarchists and anyone left wing. Man, that's nice. So this is crazy. So now we have William S. Burroughs writing, and this story has art by Malcolm McNeil. This is crazy writing. When Professor Delgado stopped a charging bull from an electronic box synchronized with electrodes in the bull's brain, he inaugurated the era of electric brain stimulation. It just seems like something he had wrote in a fever dream. Man, look at this crazy art, though. We see all these people gored by bulls in this Coliseum. Let me get back to the contributors' notes. I did want to tell you the Guido Crepax, the title of that was, it's untitled, sorry. And I guess the William S. Burroughs is untitled. The artist Malcolm McNeil, he, collaborated with Burroughs before. Oh my God, I never heard of this. Apparently, William S. Burroughs had a monthly comic strip, The Unspeakable Mr. Hart, in the underground English paper Cyclops. And then he did tons of book illustrations, this guy. Wow. He's even worked at Marvel Comics. Craziness. Next we have Gary Halgren, one of the Air Pirates, underground cartoonist. Man of the World remembers 1963. This just shows some hot rod dude really in a car. He's trying to hit on this waitress. And then it's weird, but then Ralph Nader shows up, a young Ralph Nader in his sporty Corvair, and he wins her over. She's like, she'd rather go out with Ralph. Of course, the Corvair gets in an accident, and she's injured, but she still likes Ralph more than this doofus. And because I guess that's what put Ralph Nader on his crusade. A Corvair he was driving exploded or something. So after that, he wanted to hold the auto industry accountable. Next, we have the small strip, Cosmic Conversation. Text by Penelope Tree, art by Richard Adams. This is kind of talking about horoscopes. A little gag strip. And this one is, Penelope Tree was a fashion model. Crazy. She did a lot of other stuff too. And she was from a big deal in England. And Richard Adams was basically one of those hippie artists who contributed to Oz, the hippie magazine newspaper in England. He did a lot of anarchist publications. Oh, look at this, Don Martin. God, this never would have played in Mad Magazine. We see that infamous Buddhist monk who pours gasoline on himself. But then, of course, the gasoline has made the matches soggy, so he can't kill himself. Wow, wow, wow. Of course, you got to get Kim Deitch in here. This one's called Drip City Blues, and another great comic about Waldo. And this is really just a Kim Deitch strip. He just wanted to make a funny strip. But in the background, we see the Kennedy assassination going on. But really, it's about this old drunk guy who's hanging out with Waldo. And this poor guy gets arrested, then Waldo bails him out. Then we have this little strip on the bottom, Tony Eastman, Oldies on Parade. And it just shows some great records of the 60s. Tony Eastman was an underground cartoonist. And I guess he went on to work on Saturday Night Live and Beavis and Butthead. He's also done children's books. We all know about Kim Deitch. I kind of like this one. Nick Carlson, The Old Kids presents highlights from the assassination of Von Meter, presidential mimic and JFK's antimatter. So it's just a silly thing about Von Meter getting assassinated. Now, Von Meter was the guy who had a lot of success making these comedy albums with like kind of gentle parodies of the Kennedy and his family. But he was like a best-selling recording artist, and then Kennedy got assassinated, so that shit wouldn't play anymore. So instantly his career just went to the toilet. Now this guy, Nick Carson, he's I guess he was part of the underground art scene, kind of hanging out with Andy Warhol and stuff. So I doubt this guy ever did a comic again. Really interesting. I mean, this is like, looks like it would be in Raw in the early 80s. Does not look like someone from 73. Next we have a Nard and Pat strip by Jay Lynch. And this is about, in the 60s, that's when people realized that smoking is very harmful for you. So, Nard is trying to get Pat to quit smoking. And it's really just a dumb gag. This is for a goofy gag. Look at this, Ralph Steadman doing a comic. Oh, this is nice. I wish it was this fully painted style though, but this amazing caricatures going on here. And this is just about how the church dealt with the 60s. Oh, man. Oh, I'm sorry. There's a second page here. Oh, God. This is so great. This is basically just an overall comment on the 60s. Every panel's pretty damn great in here. It's weird that the book is so oversized, but a lot of these strips, I want them even bigger. Some of these guys look like they shrunk their strips, like they made them even bigger. Next is this untitled piece by Picha. And I don't really understand it. Let's see about Picha, though. Maybe it's Pica? P-I-C-H-A. And Picha is, I guess this is just supposed to represent China, and this is America. Picha is the pen name of Jean-Paul Walravens, a Belgian cartoonist, animator, and film director. This next strip, This Porno Earth, text by Chris Lauder. And this blew me away. Cartooning by Steve Parkhouse. So in 1972, 1973, I didn't even think Steve Parkhouse was drawing comics. I mean, I thought he came up during like 2000 AD era. And look how good he is already. This is just like the Dave Gibbons stuff from 73, where it's like, these guys already had their shit dialed in when they were just teenagers. This is just really great cartooning. Kind of a weird plot here. Just how all of these historical perverts, like Desaad and Chaucer, people who have been like, people thought their work was a little saucy, Oscar Wilde, they're complaining about modern porn, about how it's just too much. God, look at this. It's like Bill Elder. Yeah, I can't believe Steve Parkhouse was already this good. And this Chris Lauder fellow, he is an English writer and editor. Well, apparently he wrote for Judge Dredd and Dan Dare. So he's an experienced comic writer. Oh, this is amazing. So while they were doing Conan, they got Roy Thomas and Barry Windsor Smith to do this strip called The Barbarian and the Super Sleuth. This comic is so silly, but man, look at this like primo Barry Windsor Smith. He got way better, but this is just classic like early Conan art. And so somehow Conan teams up with Sherlock Holmes. It's a parable about the assassination of Kennedy. A lot of people talk about the assassination of Kennedy in here. Oh, just look at this. It's like getting a lost Conan story from the guys who originated the comics. This is one of the few 3-pagers in here. In fact, I think it might be the only one. Next we have this untitled strip by Sherry Flanagan of Trots and Body fame. And we just see a young girl progress from the uptight, early 60s. And as she gets older, things get looser and looser. And she ends up a total hippie. Typically great Sherry Flanagan cartoon. I like this guy. His name's Topor. And this is some French title. La vérité couche sur la petite lèvre rouge. I don't know what the hell I'm saying. This one I want to check out here. I forgot what it was about. And this one. Oh, this is about Mao's Little Red Book. Oh, I'm sorry. It's talking about all like the very controversial books. Talking about the Kinsey Report, even the Bible. It looks like something like almost like a children's story. I just kind of like this. Really like the zany colors. And now we have another European spaghetti western. It's called Chlodwig Poth. And this is just making fun of spaghetti westerns. Were a huge thing in the 60s. Crazy ending where these two guys watching the movies. One of them bites the nose off the other guy. And I gotta find out about this Chodwick. I wish they had like, why would your parents name you that? He was a German writer, illustrator, and cartoonist. He also wrote novels. Kind of like it. It's good, funny art. It almost looks like Johnny Ryan or something. Very daffy. Next, we have Henry Beard, longtime contributor to National Lampoon, and Walter Simonson. So Walter Simonson, I think, hadn't even done Manhunter at this point. It's like, how did he even find these guys? It's amazing. Michael Trucke's the breadth of the research he did, the traveling to find people. Yeah, 72. I'm pretty sure that's before Manhunter. So this is about the famous blackout. In New York City, sorry. I think it happened like the mid to late 60s. Doesn't really show off Simonson's art at all. Lots of little panels like this of just electrical things. To be honest, I wouldn't even know this is Walt Simonson if you didn't tell me. It looks nice though. I mean, that alone, that's a great logo. This guy's really interesting. This is Furshid Barucha. And this is just about the famous Charles Joseph Whitman, the guy who climbed the tower in Austin, Texas, and killed like, at least shot 46 people. Pretty much just a straightforward thing. Furshid Barucha did stuff in Europe and America. He was all over the comics industry for a long time. The punchline is that after Charles Whitman is shot by the cops, he gets up and he says, "Was that okay, Mr. Leone?" And it's Sergio Leone saying, "Molto bene." I guess commenting on how, like, the movies were starting to reflect how violent the world was becoming, or vice versa, depending on your point of view. I like this. This how it reminds me of, goddamn, I can't remember that guy's name. But it's got that, like, almost like 80s black and white outlaw comics look to it. Like, it's a little off. Interesting. Here's another comic I wouldn't guess was from 73. Next, we have a nice comic from Jay Kinney, always entertaining. Friday Night at the Crimson Cougar. And this is just talking about the glory days of youth teen dance clubs back in the mid-60s. And, there were alcohol-free, all-ages shows. That's where kids would meet to hook up. And this was his particular spot. And it burned down, unfortunately. I always enjoy Jay Kinney stuff. And the greets of the underground. This next one is Baby Jerry. This is amazing, crazy psychedelia. This is, let me get to the page here. God, that's some groovy shit. I have no idea what it means. It's very confusing. I guess it's called, it's acid trip. Looking like a chemical formula type thing. Some of the psychedelia here, really nice stuff. Baby Jerry, I gotta find out about this guy. It's the pen name of Gerard Perichon, an American illustrator who was in East Village Other, National Lampoon. Just sounds like he's been an illustrator. Next we have Silicone Saves Brenda Schmitterix. And this is written and drawn by Alan Jones. Very crude style. I kind of like it though. And let me see what's up with this Alan Jones guy. I forgot. A British painter, sculptor, and printmaker. I guess he did like very sexual furniture. And the Korova Milk Bar in Clockwork Orange? Stanley Kubrick wanted him to design that for free. And he said, "Fuck you." So they just stole his stuff. And so his stuff looked like that. Tables with big boobies on them. Next, we have Randall Enos with The Commune. Randall Enos was in almost every issue of National Lampoon for years. I never saw him anywhere else, though. And this is just about how communes kind of sold out at a certain time. Look at this Wally Wood, Brave Nude World. And this is Wally Wood kind of as an old man, just talking about how perverse everything's getting. This last panel is just scandalous. Just people doing all kinds of crazy shit. Amazing little half pager there. Next we have Power Steering by the Mad Peck Studios, or just the Mad Peck. The guy from the 60s who did all those crazy catalogs and This one's so weird. As we see this weird alien race, they're checking out Earth, and they're basically analyzing our culture. Batman and Robin punching out Spider-Man, the cat I Spy guys. I don't know this is, but Mr. Natural appears in the crowd. The Beverly Hillbillies, the grandma about to shoot Yogi Bear. Lucy and Ethel saying how they can have sex now because the guys are gone. Just weird, very odd. Smokey the Bear and Davy Crockett. This is just a very crazy comic. This is another crazy one, Steve Englehart. So Steve Englehart did start out as an artist. He was an assistant to Neil Adams. Pretty quickly, though, he just became a writer, and there's a reason why. Though, this is kind of a parody of a Golden Age comic hero, so it kind of works, because it looks pretty shitty, like a lot of Golden Age comics did. And this is, you've seen this a million times before, patriotic hero, Captain Freedom, and, he's just like Captain America. He was, instead of being frozen in a block of ice, he was pickled. And he was taken out of the pickling process in the 60s. And of course, everything's crazy to him. He doesn't understand black people. He's got a very outmoded view of them. Everything confuses him, as it would if you were from the 40s. You were plopped into the late 60s. Pretty interesting. Next we have Black Tide, text Victor Mora, art Luis Garcia. These guys are Spanish comic creators. And look at this art, man, by, I guess, Luis Garcia. He did a lot of stuff for Warren, for like eerie and creepy, and you can kind of tell. But this is amazing. It looks like Bill Sienkiewicz, some of this. Amazing stuff. Look at the illustration here. Next we have Charles Rodriguez, longtime National Lampoon contributor, one of the funniest cartoonists ever. This is called Cryogenic Comics, and this is making fun of the fad of cryogenics, which started in the 60s. And just basically it's a funny gag strip. I didn't mention that this Black Tide is about a giant oil spill that happened in the 60s. It was the first time that kind of thing happened. It polluted like hundreds of miles of ocean, and it got a lot of, luckily though, it did get a lot of international laws changed and restrictions. Of course, it didn't stop it from happening again. He got Goscinny and Uderzo to do a new Asterix strip. Amazing. This is the kind of like coup that he gets that's like freaking amazing. And I know I said I'm not going to mention it much, but it's just a travesty. It's like, yeah, I got two of the world's most famous comics creators to give me a strip about their creation, and I'm going to put this stupid fucking panel in the middle. It's infuriating. So, to be honest, I can't remember what this is about, but it's funny. It's about, in France, by the late 60s, there was a lot of American words creeping into the language. So he's making a parody of this by showing the Gauls. They start using all Roman words because the Romans had occupied them for so long. So the purity of the language, wasn't being upheld. Next we have, I think this is untitled, Kurt Halbritter. And this is about the church, the Vatican, basically trying to change with the times, but also then thinking about it, things will go too far. Nuns will be showing off their legs and cleavage, and bishops will be having sex with whoever they want. But the real reason why he doesn't like it is because then the church is going to have to spend its money on, children, child support, taking care of their wives. And if you know history, that was part of the reason why the priests were celibate. They wanted all the land to stay in the church. They didn't want to have some son saying, hey, I'm inheriting that land. So this guy, Karl Haliburter is a German cartoonist and humorist. Or was. I think a lot of these guys are dead by now. Two Tales of the 60s by Mary Anderson. This is amazing. So he got like this, I don't know, if like 14-year-old girl to just draw some comics. Fantasyland and the Letter. And it does seem like she was a little hippie girl, like she's talking about hippie topics. But this is so amazingly crude that it's fascinating. Look at this crazy art. The letter's about getting drafted. And what he says about her, he says he has no idea when she was born, but she was in her early teens, and he can't find her. There's too many Mary Andersons in the world. So he's like, there's a bunch of artists in here where he's lost track. And he says, please contact me. Next we have, I think this is an untitled strip, Eric Norgard, text, and text and art by Herman Stilling. It looks like it's just collage art, though. And let's see about these guys. Well, I guess it's called Anna. Eric Norgard was just a journalist and a writer, never did comics. Herman Stilling was an artist and writer, a Danish artist and writer. Doesn't look like you can't really tell what his art was like, though. This is just clip art, it looks like. And this is I guess Anna's a character of theirs. A long-running character. Now we get an original Lucky Luke strip by Morris. Pretty amazing. And this is a fun one where he meets all of the old movie cowboys. Hopalong Cassidy, Gene Autry. It's basically just a funny gag. I've never read Lucky Luke, but I love this cartooning. Really nice to look at. Next we have Smoke, Death Sentence. And this is about pollution. It's by a guy named Jim Hans. And let's see what Jim Hans's deal is. American writer and artist based in New Jersey. Sounds like he never did comics before. Quite skillful, though. Pretty good illustrator. Man, I love this crazy hippie art. This to me totally looks like some Kramer's Ergot artist, Ergo, however you say it. It's a guy named Graham Percy. It's called Orbit Cool. That's the name of a character. It's so funny looking. Some of this reminds me of like Brandon Graham and stuff. Yeah, I gotta find out who this guy is. Graham Percy was a New Zealand-born illustrator. He became a freelance artist and specialized in children's books. I would definitely like to check those out. Next, we have Expo 67 by Bill Tidy. And I guess there was a big expo in Canada. It was the biggest attended one in the world. This is just a gag about it. Bill Tidy, just kind of cute cartooning. It's like something you'd see in the newspaper, you know. And I believe he's a Canadian, but let's see for sure. Oh, he's British. And I guess he's a longtime cartoonist. Works for Punch, Daily Mirror. Here's another great Italian artist, Dino Battaglia. And this is about the Six-Day War between Israel and the Arab countries. This does not look like 73 to me. Really amazing stuff. Dennis Kitchen's in here. Terry the Turgid Dog and his sidekick, Cosmic Dog, in Weird Trip. Oh my God, guys, this is worth the price of admission, this fucking comic. So we see this guy, everything's black and white. Terry the Turgid Toad is riding the dog around. They take some acid, and look how fucking groovy this gets. Remember what I was saying about the colors? These are amazing. I'm such a sucker for this kind of psychedelia, but it's Dennis Kitchen is just funny and zany psychedelia. Ugh, I can't believe this book. Next, we have this guy named Bo Michanek, and this is Keep to the Right. Kind of a very loose, little wispy style. Kind of nice. And I'll tell you about this guy. Bo Michanek is a Swedish comics illustrator who also did animation. He even worked on the Disney comics in Sweden. Next, we have Yossarian, the mysterious underground comic artist. I know I've looked at some of Yossarian stuff, but I can't remember. This is also just like this kind of weird, like amazing but crude style. An Affair of the Heart, it's called. And this is about, it's almost like a little EC comic. We even have a horror host at the beginning and the end. It tells a little bad pun. And it's about heart transplants. That began in the 60s. So there's some rich old guy, and he murders this guy, poor guy, for his heart. But then the nurse drops the heart and steps on it with her high heel shoe. So even though he's a billionaire, he's dead. No new heart for him. Next we have, I think it's called Panic by Pierre Breton. And, this is called, technically I guess it's called The Great Hair Revolution. This is, Pierre Breton was a Canadian writer and journalist. So you can tell by the art, he probably didn't do comics or so forth. He isn't much of an artist. But this is just about how hair got longer in the 60s. Thanks to the Beatles. Not that great. Oh, this is nice. Arnold Roth. God, this is beautiful. This is just crazy good cartooning. Arnold Roth, pretty much the only stuff I have by him is in Humbug. And that stuff is gorgeous. But like by the 72, 73, his stuff is really kind of weird and cool. Oh, man. This is called Tolerance. This one's really funny. Look at some of this crazy art here. Almost every panel's kind of like a funny pun. Next we have The Rise and Fall of Carnaby Street. Text by Andrew Bailey, art by Andrew Holmes. Pretty sure both of these guys were not comic guys. But let's find out for sure. There's no way I was going to remember all this. I was thinking about writing notes, but the notes would be so extensive. I'd be writing them for like hours. So I figured I know it's annoying, but I'm going to flip back and forth. Andrew Bailey's a British journalist who wrote for Rolling Stone. So never did comics. And Andrew Holmes is a book illustrator, did a lot of covers. So he never really did comics either. Just about Carnaby Street in England, how it was so hip for a few years. This one's kind of amazing too. This is Guido Bazzelli, an Italian. And he's basically just showing this map of Italy and just this kaleidoscope of images of all the crazy shit that happened in the 60s. The migration from the south to the north to get work, the mafia just blowing up Sicily, natural disasters. This art is quite remarkable. And his dealio is, I'm pretty sure he worked in English comics. He was an Italian artist and writer. And yeah, he did move to England and did a lot of newspaper strip comics there for the Daily Mirror. And then he went to paint, became a painter, but then he returned to comics in 1970. And he's won the Yellow Kid Prize at the Lucca Festival. He's a hugely popular artist in Europe, even though I've never heard of him. Never seen his stuff. But I'd love to see more. Next we have, I believe this is Untitled. Oh, this is the craziest. So these are 5 underground cartoonists from one of the blonde countries. I'll tell you in a second. Indergand, Denbo, Guiton, Besnano, and Nicolau. So it's like a jam comic. Look how just fucking perverse this shit is. And just, I mean, this is pure underground cartooning. And all these different styles clashing. A lot of it I don't even get. It's just craziness, perversion. I guess I get the perversion because I'm a pervert. But it's just nuts. Look at this. This also just looks too wild for me to be like 1973. Actually, that's probably the only time it could exist. Let me make sure about their country of origin. Oh yeah, they're French. I'm sorry, guys. They're French underground writers and artists. This is all about Charles de Gaulle, even though it's kind of hard to tell. Next, we have Justin Green, the great underground cartoonist doing The Graduate. Just talking about how having a diploma by the end of the 60s didn't really mean shit. Because every kid went to college now. Interesting Justin Green art. It's almost like he's like really slicked up for this. I think he was like, oh, this is going to be my biggest audience. I'm going to draw like extra slick. Oh, this is what's kind of fun. It's a text by Steve Skeets, worked for DC Comics for a while, and art by Alan Weiss. Now, this Alan Weiss art, this is pretty early in his career. I mean, I don't even think he was drawing for Marvel in 72. But I really like it. But I don't think I would recognize it if I didn't know, if they didn't tell me. It's really good, though. The sexual revolution caught me with my pants up. And just about the changing sexual mores, how women became more sexually aggressive because of the pill they can afford to be. Oh man, the hits just keep coming. And this one is I think it's called Voyeurism. Let me double check. And this is text by Dean Latimer, an underground journalist in America, and drawn by Ralph Reese, one of my favorite unsung heroes of comics. Such a great cartoonist. Nobody gives a shit about him. I don't get it. He's done so many great comics. Oh, this is great. This is just about the mini skirt. And then after the mini skirt, basically the fashion industry in a conspiracy started making women wear long skirts because they took more fabric and they could charge more. Next, we have underground cartoonist Willie Mendez doing The Hippie Wedding. Just showing how now weddings were even hippified. We have Bill Lee here doing this very strange strip here. Birth of the Liberal, a conservative in drag. And this is just talking about by the end of the 60s, early 70s, all these people who were like quote unquote liberal, they're really not. This one looks really nice to me. Text by Archie Goodwin. Art by Sal Amendola, the guy who drew the Phoenix for Atlas Seaboard Comics. But this art looks so different. You could totally tell that he worked at Continuity Associates, Neil Adams' firm. It's very kind of Neil Adams-y. But this is Portrait of the Auteur as a Young Trend. And this is, once again, making fun of like the changing fashion trends throughout the 60s. But this is specifically about the film business. How, during the late 60s, that's when the auteur came around. It used to be the stars who were in control. Like Liz Taylor could control the movie. But then after like Easy Rider, these young hippie auteur directors, now they were in charge. Kind of an interesting topic. It's like that Easy Riders Raging Bulls book. Next, Gan Wilson. Of course, you got to have him in here. And this one's talking about horror movies and sci-fi movies, how gory they're getting. There's some really nice gory stuff in here. This is amazing, guys. This is kind of a jam, but every artist gets their own page. These are all the great Dutch cartoonists of their time. Some of them I've never heard of. But of course, Jules de Swart, Mark Smeets, Peter Pontiac. This guy, so let's start off. Supposedly you're supposed to cut this out and make your own little book. I wish some publisher would make a nice little comic, 16-page comic of this. So it's called Not Will Comics. And so every artist just does another thing about the 60s. Here's the back cover. So Harry Buckins, I guess this is his character. I can't even, it's such a cool psychedelic logo, I can't even read it. So let me see here. This is give me one sec. Oh, Titul. This is a character he's had before. Titul and the Burning 60s. And this is about this cool hippie dude who ends up becoming a woman. Or at least a transvestite. Really nice art. I need more of this guy's stuff. I really want to see more. That looks great to me. Oh, of course, Justa Suarte with Jopo de Pojo, his character. And this is about starting a pop group back in the early 60s so they can be like the Beatles and make a lot of money. This is a little gag strip. But God, I love looking at his cartooning. His art is so good. Next we have Mark Smeets. And I don't want to do this. It's going to be so hard to get it back in frame. But Mark Smeets is so good. Kind of like Clear Line, but a little more detailed. Let me make sure that you guys can see this. Okay. Oh, so nice. Some of the guys I don't really get because it's specifically about, Dutch stuff. I'm not sure what they're talking about. Let me make sure I'm still in frame here. I think it's good. And then we have this jam page with Harry Buckings, Mark Smeets, and Justa Suarte. Provo 60s. I think Provo is what they called their word for hippie back then. Oh, we got Evermulin. I love this one. 1960 to 1969. Decisive years for Baldwin I, the smiling king of the Belgians. He's just making fun of the king. Very silly. God, that's fun looking stuff, though. Then we have this guy, Petit Buchel. Never heard of him either. I don't like this as much. But this is about abortion. It's weird. Amsterdam was so liberal about drugs and prostitution, but it was illegal to get an abortion there, I think, till like 1980, even after America. So here's a little story about that. And then we have, oh God, Peter Pontiac. I love this guy's art. This is called Mixed Up Memory Mamba. Also called Teenage Trauma Tango. I'm just going to linger on this for a little, let you guys look at it. So you can zoom in if you can. God, this is nice. So this is just about Peter Pontiac being a hippie. Oh my God, guys, and look at this. Peter Pontiac just doing this gorgeous diorama, or scene of a city. I believe this is Amsterdam. Oh God, I could just stare at this for an hour. So beautiful. It's almost like Crumb-like in its illustrative prowess. It's so gorgeous. Next we have a new Barbarella strip by Jean-Claude Forest. This guy like really got these amazing names. And it's just kind of a goofy Barbarella strip. Actually, let me see real quick the dealio here. That was called the Dutch Canal scene, by the way, that Peter Pontiac. I never knew this. Peter Pontiac, his real name is Peter Pullman. Oh, this is about the 1968 student rebellion in France. That's what the Barbarella is about. Of course, it's still science fiction, but it's commenting on it. I've never read Barbarella. I don't know if I want to. Oh, look at this. Of course, Harvey Kurtzman's involved. I like this Harvey Kurtzman just as talking about people, women in their 60s and their 50s and their 40s. And in the notes, Michael Coche says, he's like, Harvey, I was talking about the decade, not women. And just Harvey Kurtzman just doing these beautiful caricatures of older women and sexy women. Ah, it's so quick. It looks like he just drew this in like 30 seconds, all these characters. But they look so good. This one's interesting here. A Day at the Psychedelic Circuits. And it's it's Art Spiegelman, so it's a very like a formalist strip. Follow the arrows, and it becomes this cyclical thing. It just keeps folding in on itself. These two hippies. The only reason I drop acid is to keep from feeling brought down. But life's a groove, man. Why get brought down? I'm brought down because I dropped so much acid. So it just keeps going like this, and you can keep following the arrows, end up different places. And then this guy shows up and puts him in a spaceship to Alpha Centauri for some reason. Now, the reason I mentioned this earlier, he reworked the strip because he figured this would never come out. This book was a dead in the water. So in Arcade, a few years later, Art Spiegelman totally redrew it, got rid of the goofy hippies, but the same concept, and just called it A Day at the Circuits. Nothing about psychedelia, no hippies, and now it's I only drink to keep from getting so damn depressed. And then there's no goofy aliens at the end, or sorry, spaceship at the end. And it's also drawn better too. It's Art Spiegelman drawn really good. Not that this is bad, this is gorgeous. Once again, look at these great colors. I can almost feel like Bernie Moreau, because Bernie Moreau was great at colors. He did like a lot of these strips, at least did the color seps. Oh God, the hits just keep coming. Harlan Ellison wrote this with art by Leo and Diane Dillon, who did many of Harlan Ellison's covers. They were longtime associates. They were husband and wife science fiction art team. And this is called Eco-Awareness. And of course, Harlan Ellison tells a little parable about how one day Earth just got sick of all these humans fucking shit up. Started swallowing litter bugs. Started filling up the Astrodome. I'm sorry, the Hollywood Bowl where the Mormon Tabernacle choir is performing. He reroutes some rivers to just drown everyone, turn it into a big lake. So one by, it just goes, it's basically all the things that Harlan Ellison's annoyed by. Mother Nature just takes care of it. Eventually man learns its lesson, goes back to like living like an Eden-like existence, and Mother Earth settles down and stops killing everyone. At the very end, he says, "Now isn't that a nice story? And fuck you too." I love that. That ending makes it much better. Look, this art is so interesting, though. So of its time, too. This is so early 70s art. It's great, though. Ah, yes! So Von Baudet doing 4 strips. Typical Von Baudet, reptiles and war, talking about the horrors of war and how stupid humanity is. These are really nasty. The ending one here is just this, God, so gory. This lizard, his guts are pouring out. He's just like, "Mama, I gotta go home now. I don't want to play no more." So it's not even trying to be funny. Oh, some of these I can't even repeat to you. They're so nasty, the humor. It's like, whoa. War lizards. Next we have George Snow. This is about Andy Warhol getting shot. Not very excited about this just because it's kind of a photo collage. He did get this woman to dress up. He found this picture of Andy Warhol, but then it is a fumetti. And let me see what's up with this guy. This guy's name is, George Snow. And George Snow is a British artist who appeared in the underground newspapers of the late 60s. And then he went on to be a hot shot, like did album covers. This one's crazy. It's Jazz in the 60s. Text by Burton Roth, art by Gaspar Saladino, the great letterer. So, of course, he supplies a very attractive logo. It's just blank panels. I guess what he's saying is that jazz stopped progressing in the 60s and it was a wasteland. Very interesting. Burton Roth is, I guess he was a screenwriter. Another guy that he's lost track of. This one's really great. It's Hans Traxler, Little Paul in Slumberland. And this is about the Pope at the time. And he reiterated to the church that the church is not into contraception. So he has a nightmare about these giant babies attacking Vatican City. And then he says, I had the most gruesome dream last night. Of course, he didn't change his views on contraception. You'd like to think it did. He's a German cartoonist, this guy, Hans Traxler. Like his stuff, it's pretty fun. It's one of my favorites. So this is text by Charles O'Hegarty, and it's a war comic, so who do you get to draw it? Russ Heath. This guy, Michael Coche, knew his shit. Like, it's like, well, it's probably Neil Adams. Neil Adams advised him on a lot of the comic artists. And strangely enough, Neil Adams, he had a meeting with him, but Neil Adams didn't contribute. And they worked together before in National Lampoon a few times. So kind of interesting that he's not in this. So this is called The War is Heck. And just, this one's kind of weird. It's just talking about how a lot of guys got sent to Vietnam and all they did was dig latrines. I guess in the early years of the war, there was nothing to do. And so this guy's complaining about it. It's like, oh, I'd sure like to, wish I could get to fight some Viet Cong. Be careful what you wish for. It's interesting, though, because at the time, Russ Heath was doing much better art than this in the Our Army at War comic featuring Sergeant Rock. This is nice. It's Russ Heath, but, you know, like a lot of the artists have stepped up for this book because they probably got paid more for this than they ever got paid for Marvel or DC. A lot of these mainstream artists. But I want to see who this Charles O'Hegarty is. Let me get to the page here. A British singer-songwriter. He also contributed to National Lampoon. Interesting. Next, we have The Prodigal Son. Text by Armonia Rodriguez. Art by Adolfo Lucero. And this is kind of saying how the gypsies were like the first hippies. And we see this Romany guy. He doesn't want to live like a Romany. He studies, he joins the National Service, becomes a conservative basically. But then he drops out and becomes a hippie. And obviously the correlation here. It's like, it's the same thing. They like to play guitar. They like to dance. And they like to wander around. Armonio Rodriguez was a Spanish writer, playwright, and theater director. Not a comic guy. And Adolfo Lucero was a longtime comic artist who did westerns and war comics. And he also worked for Warren Comics in the 70s. Oh, this is goofy. Tarzan's Chicago Adventure, written by Mike Olshan, by Frank Brenner. I think Frank Brenner wasn't at his peak yet. This doesn't look nearly as good as some of his Doctor Strange stuff. But this is about the Chicago Democratic Convention, where the cops busted a lot of hippie heads. And it's just a very chaotic. And for some reason, Tarzan shows up. And Tarzan gets all the monkeys from the zoo to escape and attack the cops. But then the cops use tear gas, which the monkeys have no defense against. So Tarzan and his helpers wind up in jail with all the other hippies. He says civilization sucks. Mike Olshan is an American journalist. Once again, a guy who never did comics. I like this one by Herb Trimpe, Charlie. And it's I just like how it's very kind of like an EC Two-Fisted Tales comic. Once again, a Vietnam story. And this is just one of those typical war is hell type stories where when you're getting shot at or you're scared of dying, you'll commit any atrocity to not be on the receiving end of atrocity. Kind of like this Herb Trimpe art. It was very typical mainstream type, but it's very effective. Next we have Tisoy in China Watching. This is by a guy named Marcelo. And this is about, he's a Filipino cartoonist. And here we see LBJ. It looks like LBJ. He's talking about the Chinese, and then this Filipino guy he's talking to. Because, you know, the Philippines were kind of in America's pocket. They did whatever we told them. So we said, you don't recognize China, communist China? They said, okay. But then we see this guy puts on a communist hat, a red Chinese communist hat, and he kicks the American off a cliff. Sidewalk Chuckles by Stu Schwartzberg, who did tons of stuff for Archie Comics. And this is a very odd one, where I don't know what he's trying to say. But we see, it's like a blackout, it's a riot. All these black guys are stealing TVs, refrigerators right out of a window, and all these cops are just ignoring. They're right there and they're ignoring them. Once they're all gone, one white guy shows up and picks a little TV up, and they all bust his head. It's like, what? What are you talking about? It's almost like the opposite of what would have happened. This is really interesting. So this is called Las Olimpiadas 68. Sergio Aragones, Mad's, well, not Mad's maddest artist, that's Don Martin, but you know who Sergio Aragones is. And seeing Sergio Aragones do a serious trip. This is about, in the 68 Olympics, during that time, there was a protest from, you know, young people, liberals, and the government just fucking sent the army in, and they just start shooting people. It was a massacre. But he has this statue of like the Olympiad, the Olympian, and the story's told within here in nitty-gritty black and white. But then around it is all like, the fun festivities of the Olympics. Because that's why they were cracked down so hard. I guess the 60 Olympics was the first time a developing nation hosted the Olympics. Next we have this guy, Robert Gernhardt, A Canadian Tragedy. And this is about the killing of seals, which was a Canadian, you know, tradition. So this is like the fur industry makes this propaganda telling people that the seals are bloodthirsty and they're killing humans at any chance they can. Pretty funny stuff. Robert Bernhardt's a Canadian cartoonist. Next we have R.O. Blackman in Decomania, talking about the fascination of the 70s with Art Deco. God, I've never seen his art this wiggly. This is like, that's a shaky line. I wonder if he had the DTs. I still love it though. I love his style. Next we have Chris Miller, text, Graymar art. It was all a clever ruse. Comics. This was pretty crazy. Chris Miller is a longtime National Lampoon guy. You know, he wrote, co-wrote the scripts for Animal House and Vacation. And this is like almost this like what if, where everything turned out okay in the 60s. Where JFK wasn't assassinated. He did his 2 terms. Russia and America made nice with each other. Marijuana was legalized. Just all these great things happened. Everything that bad happened in the 60s didn't. Bobby Kennedy doesn't get assassinated. Neither does Martin Luther King. Charles Manson meets this woman and falls in love. And they're both very happy. I love these kind of comics. I like this guy. This is just looks like, I don't know, like 80s new wave comics. Like post Gary Panter ugly art. It's a guy named Ed McCormack. This is called Nowheres. And it's kind of like showing that in the early 70s, the 60s were totally dead. And this is like early disco culture, where nobody gives a shit about politics anymore. Everyone just wants to get high and fuck. And the dream is over. Let people OD in the bathroom. I gotta find out about this guy, Ed McCormack. An American artist. Oh, I guess he did underground comics for Gothic Blimp Works. And he's went on to be a writer, sounds like. I guess it doesn't look like he has much natural art skill, so I'm not surprised. But I love it. I love the way this looks. This is really cool looking. Oh, next we have another great Dutch cartoonist, Evert Gerrits. This is some of my favorite Evert Gerrits I've ever seen. This just shows the crazy, lifestyle of the late 60s. This straight guy gets off work on Friday and just goes crazy. Goes to this amazing psychedelic concert with the weird shit projected on the walls. And then, of course, he's got to go back to work Monday. This is really great looking. Motherfucker. Okay, here's another one. This is the Justice Association, Stephen Battaglio. It's a superhero parody. And as you can tell, it's like, wow, look at this guy totally appropriating like this crude style. No, this kid was 13 when he wrote this in 1972 and drew this. And he grew up to be a journalist. Oh, man. I kind of love this. This is just crazy. It's almost like, hilarious because it is a 13-year-old writing it. So it's just this parody of superheroes. And they basically, just like the old Justice League comics, or Justice Society, they all split up into teams to try to stop the assassinations of JFK, RFK, and MLK. And so they go back in time and stop the assassinations. But it's so dopey and weird. And you can tell, just look at this art. I kind of love this. It's not good, but I fucking love it. Next we have this artist named Folks with 2 F's. This is called The Guru. Of course, that was a big thing in the 60s. We've seen this strip so many fucking times. How many times have you seen this comic gag where a guy climbs a mountain for weeks and goes through all this turmoil? He meets the guru, and the guru just says something dumb like, life is just a bowl of cherries. And the guy goes, what? And flips up backwards. This Folks guy, I believe, is German. Let me double check. Oh, he's an English cartoonist, Brian Davis. That's his real name. He was in Punch and Esquire, even in Playboy. Oh, man, this early 70s Ned Sontag is so fucking good. I can't believe how crappy he got in the 80s. So this is his character, Smacky Duck, and this is about rock festivals. Next, we have this guy, Derek Boschier. And a lot of this is just like collage stuff, finding old things. And it's just about Vietnam. How Vietnam was this amazing. Even in 1969, Vietnam was the touristy country in the world during the war. It's pretty odd. So this guy's a British pop artist, this Derek Boschier. Oh, guys, this is another one. They fucking got Mobius. Pretty much, I don't even know if he was Mobius in 72, when he was still Gear. They got him to do a Western. He's drawing Lieutenant Blueberry at the time. This is called Tobacco Road. Just fucking gorgeous. And they put this fucking thing right in the middle. Look at that. That's like pissing on the Mona Lisa. That's like fraudaging the Venus de Milo. Ah, God, it kills me. So we just see a typical stagecoach type thing. These Indians are trying to take it. And one of them jumps on the stagecoach rider and says, take me to Havana. At the time, it was funnier. Because that was the era of plane hijackings. And a lot of these terrorists would say, take me to Havana. Because Cuba was like a free haven for terrorists. Dirty Duck Demands His Due by Bobby London, of course. And these are just a bunch of gags. But man, I love Bobby London's work. It's so old-timey cartoony. And this is about Dirty Duck meeting Andy Warhol. Next we have this guy, Sigvaldi. And this is just I don't know, it's like something from a fanzine. Just a bunch of collage stuff. I don't know what the hell it's about. Let's see what let's find out about this Sigvaldi. This is he's a Danish poet, so obviously he's not an artist. I guess it's about napalm, technically. It does say napalm, sorry. Light napalm money piece. Next we have The Ballad of Killaloo. And this is text by Andy Cockburn and Roger Hutchinson, art by Roger Singer. And this is about the struggle in Ireland to be free of England. Kind of gives you the whole history. But mainly it talks about Ian Paisley, who was a Northern Irish Protestant, who just was a total bigot, anti-Catholic, anti-Irish guy. These guys, I believe, are Irish, I assume, but I should find out for real. Andrew Cockburn, Anglo-Irish. Roger Hutchinson, British journalist. None of them did comics. And Roger Singer's another one who got lost along the way. The editor has no idea what happened to him. Now, guys, this is crazy. Written and drawn by Louise Simonson. I never saw her draw. She's good. This totally looks like something that would be in National Lampoon. This one is kind of just a little comment on women's lib movement. But what a find. It's pretty nice. Next we have Panther Party, written by Michael O'Donoghue, amazing contributor to National Lampoon, Saturday Night Live, and drawn by Peter Bramley, the underground cartoonist, who actually was the art director for National Lampoon the first year of its existence. This is making fun of there'd be these like super rich liberal elites who'd have these parties for the Black Panthers. But I mean, they were just a bunch of rich people who were like following a trend, basically. There's actually an issue of The Incredible Hulk, which addresses the same issue. It's pretty amazing. Next we have Ed Subitsky, one of my favorites. He was in almost every issue of National Lampoon. Always drew in this crazy little tiny style. This is called Two-Headed Sam at the Singles Bar. And this is making fun of, single bar culture. It's pretty damn funny and great. God, I love his stuff. Just seeing his faces makes me chuckle. It's so, simplistic, but it's so amazing. Okay, guys, hold on to your hats. I'm not shitting you. Federico Fellini. Now, remember what I was saying about colors before? Now, this is just a total artsy, beautiful mess. This is so nice. I love this. And this is about Fellini just recounting a dream that he had. Of course, it's a very crazy dream. This is incredible. Also, this seems like it would be a comic from the, Kramer's Ergot or something. This seems very modern to me. Wow. Next we have, oh God, The Curtain Comes Up, written by Frank Zappa, drawn by Cal Schenkel. Look at this. Oh, I love that panel. That is such great psychedelia. Look at this shit. Now, Frank Zappa, this is the writing is as chaotic and kind of hard to follow as this music is. But it's basically making fun of these guys, kind of guru types who have all the answers. Looks like a wizard. He's telling all these people in the audience that he's got the answers, But God, this art. So Cal Schenkel did a lot of Frank Zappa album covers. They were associates, for a long time. Oh, that's electric. That's electrifying. The colors and the drawing. It's amazing. Next we have Stan Mack, who had that Village Voice comic for like decades. This is called Train of Thought Comics, commenting on how, most people left the cities and the cities were left, turned into slums, basically, a lot of parts of the city. This one's just pretty much one panel. It's Andy Pointer, an American cartoonist, The Death of Mayor Baba. Mayor Baba was like a guru type who I guess took a vow of silence. For decades, he never said a word. So the joke is that on his deathbed, everyone's like, did he say anything? What did he say? I really like this, even though it's just one little panel. Colors and the art. I'd like to see more by Andy Pointer. Oh, this one's crazy. This French cartoonist Bado. And I have no idea what's going on here. But look at this crazy, like, cinematic. We see this head rising. Kind of reminds me of Terry Gilliam. His animations. So weird. Turns out it's a balloon held by this kid. It just says, Free Quebec. So, I like that he has his political message, but he just made this cool, groovy, psychedelic thing. I love that. Oh, this one's crazy. So this is The Relativity Syndrome, written by Jerry Conway, mainstream comics writer, art by Gordon Goldberg. Very crude style. It looks like those undergrounds that nobody wants. This is the artist who would be in that. And this is just talking about a typical hateful American racist cop. A little character study of him. Kind of interesting. The art kind of fits. It's kind of perfect for this kind of story. Because it is an ugly person inside and out. And the art kind of reflects that. Gordon Goldberg was a painter who lived next door to Jerry Conway. So Jerry Conway got this assignment. He just knocked at his neighbor's door and said, hey, you want to draw a comic? So that's why he can't draw very good. He was probably an abstract painter, I imagine. Crazy. Yeah, and Jerry Conway uses some really salty language in here. Guys, this might be the craziest comic in the book. This is Thule Kupferberg, the guy from the Fugs, the 60s crazy whatever the hell they are. Some people say they're proto-punk. I've listened to them. They're not very punk, but they're nuts. This is called Jaime the Hippie, or Air Today, Gunned Tomorrow. And this is beyond Wendell Allen Pugh's Googie Wommer. This is some of the strangest art I've ever seen. I mean, it's barely art. It's like Tales of the Bean World. It's like Matt Feazell. But it's so much weirder. Like, they're not stick figures. Like, what are these shapes? I don't know. But they're supposed to be characters. This is nuts. This seems like it's a veiled autobiography of Thule. Growing up with straight parents, but he wanted to be creative. He didn't want to become like an accountant. Oh, it's crazy. This really does remind me of that Googie Wommer comic. That you should look it up. There's a video for it on the channel in the underground list. And just these weird colors, splotches of color here and there. Very strange. Amazing. This next one is called Puffman. Written by Ken Sams, art by Nick Stern. Very slick artist, this Nick Stern. And this is basically, of course, health food became a big thing in the 60s. And this is some super corporation who makes shitty cereals. Is basically trying to sabotage this little granola maker. And he keeps getting thwarted at every turn. I gotta find out about these guys. So, Ken Sams was an American military historian and inventor. Nick Stern was an American underground cartoonist. Shit, I've never seen his stuff before. Very sharp. Pretty nice. Oh, this is fucking crazy, this art here. So this is text by Ernie Eben, art by Jim Leone. So not only is this just some beautiful psychedelic candy-colored Technicolor cartooning, I don't fucking get this at all. So basically it's about computer dating. At first we see someone with, having a pen pal. I guess in the old days, he would try to meet people through the mail. But for some reason we see all these celebrities and their bodies are noses. It looks like they have a huge goiter. Mick Jagger, Ringo Starr. They're all saying a quote that kind of represents them. I'm sorry, this is called Smell of the 60s. I don't understand. This whole nose thing is so weird. Janis Joplin looks like she's morbidly obese and she has this huge chin. Even Jim Morrison gets the treatment. Oh, crazy. This is some gorgeous stuff, though. Even though that's kind of repulsive, these nose for neck bodies. Ernie Eben, the writer, was English, wasn't a comic writer. Jim Leone was an English painter. Wow. So I guess he just drew like psychedelic surrealist art. But you'd think he might have been, I guess he is a little too slick to be an underground cartoonist. It makes sense. I'm sure he did lots of psychedelic rock posters and stuff. Amazing stuff. Next we have Derek Lamb. He was an animator, I believe in Canada. And this is just a silly gag, a very weird gag. This interviewer says, "What do you think of the 60s, ma'am?" And she pulls out a knife and stabs him. That's it. Here's another weird one. Jill Schwartz. Never heard of her. Pretty good. Kind of looks like a National Lampoon cartoonist. Really dumb strip, though. But it's talking about the pill, which, of course, revolutionized sexuality. Next, we have El Perich doing this untitled strip. And this is just some old man grumbling about the loose sexuality of the 60s. And he doesn't like it. Oh, that's such a repulsive image. I don't like that. I think Joe Schwartz is one of those people that he doesn't know anything about. Yeah, he can't find her. And he even says, "Where are you?" The next one, El Perich, whose real name is Jaume Perich Escala, was a Spanish cartoonist and humorist for a long time. Wow. That's kind of like Johnny Ryan's Roughs. It's not even as slick as Johnny Ryan. Oh, God, do I have to tell you? Look at this. He got Jack Kirby to write and draw, pencil this comic, and Joe Sinnott inked it. The Ballad of Beardsley Bullfeather, or Tune In, Cop Out, and Drop Up. Classic Kirby hipster narration. So it's just a weird story about some guy in 1965, kind of like Ayn Randian type guy, who's like, yeah, I don't need the government to help. I'm going to make my own rocket ship and go to the moon. But it's written in this verse. In 1965, when the world was lucky to be alive, though middle-aged and far from hip, Beardsley Bullfeather took a trip. And then, I guess he got to the moon before the Apollo mission, but no one remembers. Who steps into history? What's in a name? If a plot has a hero who stars in a scheme, does it matter whose footprint officially marks the start of an era, the end of a dream? Almost sounds nice, but this is just great Kirby. Well, goofy great Kirby. That guy. That doofus. So much good shit. Jeffrey Catherine Jones. The strip is called 69, and it's talking about the Apollo mission, making a kind of comical correlation between the guys on TV talking about the Apollo mission. It sounds like innuendo when we see this couple fucking. So, it's all like, the great Saturn V rocket booster was pumped full with propellants and was erected. The blast-off was beautiful. And then, orbital insertion. So it just goes on like that. Colors are a little weird to me. I don't like this monochromatic business. But God, just beautiful prime era Jones. And I like this when they have orgasm. It does turn red. I do like that color choice. Next we have this one, Yngwie Sebastian. Just a cute little gag about Watergate, kind of. And that guy is from, let me see real quick. Oh, so a Swedish. He's a Swedish cartoonist. It's amazing how so many of these cartoonists look like they could barely draw. But they were like the #1 cartoonist in their country for a decade. Next we have Willem. And Willem, I think we just saw Willem in a comic recently, but I can't remember. His real name was Willem Holtrup, Dutch cartoonist. He was actually prosecuted for showing the Queen of Holland as a prostitute. He made a cartoon and he was prosecuted. This is a weird play, The Confessions of William Calley, the American soldier, one of the few who got prosecuted for war crimes. I guess he just killed like 100 civilians. He went crazy and just murdered like children, old women. And so this play is supposed to be about him. All these people are excited. And then the actor playing William Calley just comes out, or maybe it's supposed to be him, and just starts killing everyone in the crowd with a machine gun. And as everyone's getting shot, they're all like, "Brilliant! The last word in political theater." Of course, it's a huge success. I kind of like this drawing. Nice stuff, Willem. Here's another pretty amazing illustrator. This is a Sean Kelly text, the great National Lampoon writer and editor, and art by Michael Kanarek. It's called Abbey in Wonderland. The shtick of this is, it starts with this caption: each speech is an exact quotation from one or the other of two famous trials. The Chicago 7 trial, or the King and Queen of Hearts versus the Knave of Hearts in Alice in Wonderland. Can you guess which one is which? Just to show how absurd that trial is. I really like how he's kind of does this warped version of John Tenniel, the classic Alice in Wonderland artist. But it's really goony. Like a goony version of that. Interesting stuff. Next we have John Glashan. Once again, this is another guy who was like a huge cartoonist in this country. Well, look at this art. It makes me feel like I should have gone into cartooning. I can't draw worth a lick, but I think I could do this. And this guy is a Scottish writer and cartoonist. So next we have, this one's called Altamont. And this is about that infamous concert. Pretty much just showing what happened. This is written by Mick Farren, who is a British rock journalist. He was also in a band called the Deviants in the 60s, who they describe as a proto-punk band. And it's drawn by Edward Barker, who I believe was an English underground cartoonist. Yes, he was. Kind of interesting looking. I like this crazy layout. It'd be a lot better if that wasn't there. Yeah, that's better. Next we have J.B. Handelsman, Decade of Dope. He's just commenting on it's not really about like drugs. It's about like philosophies. People ODing on certain conceptions of the world. Kind of fun little cartooning going on here. J.B. Handelsman, I'm pretty sure was American. Let me see. Yeah. He was one of the first cartoonists to be in Playboy. Next we see John Kent with his character Varumshka. I guess this was a long-running character. This is Varumshka meets Dr. J.F. Jekyll and Mr. R.M. Hyde. I kind of like this. It looks like some romance comic from the 60s. The way he draws Varumshka. And this is just about how all the presidents kept getting us deeper into the Vietnam War. I believe John Kent was English. I'll check that out though real quick. Oh, a New Zealand cartoonist, but he did emigrate to England. I guess Varumshka's been in the newspapers for a long time. Oh, here's some more crazy art. Someone I never heard of. This is called The Big Snooze by Red Grooms. That's got to be a pen name. This is fucking crazy, this art. It's so crude. This is also like, this could be 80s, like, you know, like Mark Merrick, post-Gary Panther shit. Crazy beautiful colors, too. I love this. Here's a Rip Van Winkle type story. This guy goes to sleep in 1960 and he misses all of the, all this crazy shit of the 60s. He sleeps through it all. I'd love to see more stuff by him. So Red Grooms is, his real name was Charles Red Grooms, an American artist renowned for his mixed media approach. So he didn't really do comics, which you can kind of tell, even though I love this. This is terrific stuff. Next, we have Nothing to Shout About by Patrice Leconte. Another great cartoonist I've never heard of. I love this. This is just about a guy who thinks the 60s weren't that important. Some guy says, oh, what about blah, blah, blah. He says, the 100 Years' War was much more fascinating than the Vietnam War. What about the lunar landing? The Columbus's discovery of America was much more important. So it just goes on like that. I love this guy's art. And once again, these colors are just so outstanding. So this is, Patrice Leconte is a film director and screenwriter, but he has been drawing comics for Pilote when he was a young man. Really good stuff. This one's great. This one's really weird. Kent State Comics, script by Douglas C. Kenny, great National Lampoon editor, and in fact, I think he was the first one. Died very young. Art by Stan Goldberg and Dick Giordano. What the fuck is happening? This strip is really trippy. We see all the black and white art is Dick Giordano. All the color art is Stan Goldberg of Archie fame. And it looks just like Archie characters. We see this like hippie guy. He's watching the TV and they're talking about the Kent State, the death of 4 students, or the murder, I should say. But then all of a sudden the TV is now about how this fraternity has been awarded first prize in the 1961 Kent State Campus Day Float competition. So the parents are like, come on, Gary. We're going to the campus to say hi to your brother and congratulate him for winning this competition. So he goes there, and it's almost like this. I don't know if this did happen in 1961, but he's still black and white, as if he's a ghost. The parents leave and say that Gary can hang out, sleep over at his brother's frat house. Of course, they get him drunk, and he pukes up all over. And he's still black and white. Everyone can see him. It's not like he's a ghost. And then when he kind of wakes up, he's the hippie again. And he's watching the Kent State thing. Very weird, like Twilight Zone type story. I'm not sure I get it, though. But I love seeing the clash of styles. I love seeing Stan Goldberg just draw these perfect Archie-like characters. Oh, this is crazy. So this is called The Silencing of the Shazam Sayer. Text by Denny O'Neil, art by C.C. Beck, and with Don Newton helping out. Now, both of these guys worked on the 70s revival of Shazam. This one's kind of weird because it almost seems like a veiled advertisement for the new Shazam comic. Apparently, in 1952, a judge tells Billy Batson he can't say the name Shazam anymore. I like this scene, like Clark Kent say, hey, tough luck, kid. And Batman and Captain America. That's probably all Don Newton, I imagine. But, so the years pass. He's in the South. He sees a KKK rally. Can't do anything. He's in Watts, rioters, looters. Can't do anything to help. But then finally, Clark Kent comes up to him in the 70s. And he says, Billy, the judge reversed his ruling. You're free to say anything you like. He says Shazam. And then he flies off. And some hippie says, it's the world's mightiest mortal on his way to making the 70s sing. And right around this time, DC resurrected Shazam with C.C. Beck and Denny O'Neil writing it. So kind of weird. I guess it is about the 60s, though. Now we see that Michael Fogg do a whole page of cartoons about Michael Choquet and fantasizing about other people he could have gotten. I mean, it becomes silly. Like he's talking to an Aztec king He's talking to Brezhnev. He's in bed with John and Yoko, showing it to Nixon in the Oval Office. I kind of do like this guy's cartooning. Here's the pages of translations of the strips. See, this is how it was done. You know, numbers, and then you read it. Not a good way to read a comic at all. I guess it's better than no translation at all, though. I just looked at these strips and seen these half-size reproductions. I'm just like, I'm gonna start over and look at these again. They all look so good. Okay, let's get through this. And here's the notes and contributors that I've been flipping through the whole time. Oh, I forgot to mention, this is really good. Each one, you know, tells you the title and also gives you context. So some of these strips are very nebulous, but the editor here will be like, 1965, this happened, and that's what he's talking about here. That name mentioned was the mayor of Rome during the riots. You know, so it really helps out where a lot of these things you're like, what are they talking? I don't know what they're talking about. I don't know that name that they're yelling. It's like, he tells you. Very extensive, as you can see. It's almost done. This has got to be the longest video I've ever done. Next we have Profile of the Editor by Bob Levine. And God, Michael Choquet had quite the life. Even as a little kid, he was putting out cartoons. He was a magician. He put out an album of funny songs. He was on like a bunch of TV shows. He was part of this comedy vaudeville type duo. He had a one-man show where he did all these characters. He made films when he was a kid, documentaries and shorts. And so then he was right in on the ground floor of National Lampoon. And he did some of their famous articles. It tells us about his whole life. Pretty interesting. And then this is backstage editorial art and production teams. So it's the 70s. This was the initial group. There's Neil Adams. And of course, this all went away. The project was ditched. So these people went on with their lives or died. And now there's a new production team when Abrams agreed to publish it. And there we see Bernie Moreau before he died, before he killed himself. Way before, since this is 2010, probably. Index to contributors. And then a total general index. You know, anything. Lyndon B. Johnson. Pretty extensive. This book is really, they really think about it. I kind of like this. It says the abridged version. It's the letter from Jan Werner in 1971 saying, I'm really excited about this project. Tell me how much money you need. And then a year later, he's like, Dear Michael, sorry, we decided not to publish Someday Funnies. Then we see a little later, it's Harper and Row. Oh, we're really excited about your book. Here's a check for $12,000. Can't wait. And then just like a year later, they're like, sorry, Michael, we can't go ahead with the Someday Funnies. And even in 74, this is interesting. He actually submitted it to Abrams Books. John L. Hockman, 1974. He says, nah, it's a cute idea, but we can't do this. And then Charles Cockman, who I assume is the son, who now works at Abrams, says, this is fantastic in 2009. Call me. So that was a cute little page there. End paper, same as the front ones. And that's it, guys. Holy shit. I hope you're still watching because this is amazing. This was a magical mystery tour, if you will. Hope you guys were as blown away by this as I was. Hope you weren't too bored. I know it went on for a long time, but there's so much in here to address. So many interesting artists I never heard of, never seen before. So I can't believe this book is real. Some guy actually did this back in the early 70s. Said, yeah, I'll get Fellini to draw me a comic. Why not? I mean, the list of people he asked, like Jane Goodall and shit, it's crazy. So thanks for watching, guys. I'm gonna go eat some dinner or just go to bed and pass out. But thanks for watching. I hope to see you next time here at the Herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.